Hello there, and welcome back to our series, BASSSF. Really loves the acronym. Building a Squarespace site from start to finish. So in this video, we really get into the Squarespace part of this series. What do we do in this video?
Yeah, so you are gonna show your little wireframing process, which is before you even get into Squarespace, how you set that up. You're also gonna show just the initial Squarespace setup. So how you're architecting the pages, how you're setting up all the styles, and then something that blew my mind that I didn't even know that you did, which is pretty par for the course for our entire lives, which is the brand styles page, which is awesome. Like it almost looks like it could just be its own website, essentially. It's really
that's
cool.
The whole point of it, is like that step in the process, the brand styles page, really made my whole website process go faster, because it's just deciding on all of your font styles, colors, etc. before you go to do layouts on your pages. So you will see how that impacts the final process. Hope you enjoyed this video, and let's get into it. All right, first things first, I knew exactly which template I wanted to start with to start the Squarespace site. So I searched for Brine on the Squarespace template list and clicked Start with Brine. That is going to create my brand new Squarespace site using the Brine template. And you can see it has all of these design elements. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually delete all of the demo content. That's just my preference. I like to start completely fresh as opposed to utilizing their demo content. Okay, now that I have all the demo content cleared out, I'm going to take a look at my sitemap worksheet to understand which pages I need to create and where they sit in the navigation. This pages list worksheet is available inside the Better Branding course and also inside Wandering Aimfully. I'm not going to get too far into the worksheet, but I did use this to list out the 6 pages that I thought were necessary to make this a useful website for something like a creative studio that had both services and products. So you can see I've listed the home page, an about page, a work with us page, which is a services page, a course like sales page to sell a course or a digital product, a blog, and then a contact page. You can see I also use the area underneath each page to brainstorm what I think should be included information-wise on each of those pages, and we'll come back to this when it comes time to create the layouts for each page. As far as the sitemap goes, I knew that I didn't want 5 different links to 5 different pages in the header navigation of my website, so I used this worksheet, which is also available inside Better Branding course, to break them down into a primary navigation and a secondary navigation. This is a functionality that I already know exists within the Brine template. So you can see everything highlighted in blue are going to be my primary navigation pages, and everything highlighted in pink will be my secondary. I separated them in this way because I know that if I'm a business who's going to actually utilize this website, the most important thing that I want someone to do when they land on the website is to check out my services and to consider buying my course and maybe read a couple of blog posts to get to know me better and what we're about. And then the less prominent things that someone could go looking for and could easily find, but maybe it's not as prominent, would be the contact, the about page to find out more about us, and the frequently asked questions. Okay, now that I know what pages I need to create and how they need to live in my navigation, I'm going to head back over to my Squarespace website and create those pages. Here I am starting to add those pages in my page list here in Squarespace and really build out the website. You can see how that site list really comes in handy because I know exactly what pages I'm creating, the Work With Us services page, my course page, and my blog landing page, and I'm putting all of those within the primary navigation area in my Squarespace site. And now I'm adding the additional 3 pages to my secondary navigation. In my not linked section, you'll see my home index, but now I'm also going to add a blog for my blog post that I'll create later, as well as another blog entitled Testimonials. And that is going to be for a feature that I'll show you in the layouts video, how I create a slider of testimonials. For now though, I'm going to head back to the design section of my Squarespace settings, and under the logo and title section, I'm going to replace my site title with my business name, Galactic Creative Studio, and upload my lovely new logo. Don't worry about the size of it for now. We are going to edit that in the style settings of the website, or our tagline or favicon or any of that stuff. We will go back and change that. Now that we have most of our pages created, let's also go into the blog and create some blog posts. I have a cool app on my Mac called Loremify, and it just basically copies a bunch of lorem ipsum text to my clipboard, depending on whether it's a headline or an article or things like that. So if you see me reach up into my toolbar and copy text, that's where I'm getting it from. So I'm just utilizing that to add a headline, some excerpt text, and an image for this example blog post. Finally, I'm just pasting in some article text, and then you'll also see me creating 3 different example categories for blog posts. And for now, because I can't come up with anything more creative, I'm just going to put category 1, category 2, and category 3. But I'll show you later on in your settings, you can bulk edit category names. And then I'm going to hit save. There you go. If I now click on my image here, it takes me to this example blog post. Now let's duplicate this blog post. Let's hit edit, and down at the bottom you'll see duplicate. And I want to create 6 different blog posts, 2 in each category. So I'm going to repeat this process multiple times, swapping out the image, maybe changing the title text just so visually it'll look differently on my website. And I'll have plenty of example posts to choose from when it comes time to designing the layout of my website. All right, now that I'm done creating my 6 example blog posts, I can show you what that looks like. I'm just going to type in my URL slug articles, which is where all my blog posts will now live. And you can see there they are, all 6. Now that that is taken care of, I'm going to move on to the next part of my process, which is to create a brand styles page in my Squarespace site. This is incredibly helpful for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's a place where you can always keep your colors and your brand fonts and all of that good stuff. But also, if you insert a bunch of the content blocks into this page and then you style them using Squarespace's style settings, then you can basically style all of the content elements first so that when you go to make layouts of your pages, everything is already styled. You don't have to go one by one throughout your site build and style each one. Adding this one step in my website process has saved me so much time, and it really is magic once you start to build the website. So I will show you guys exactly how I created this brand styles page. So I'm going to create a new page in my not linked section of my navigation, and I'm just going to call it brand styles. And I really like to start with my font styles. So I'm going to make sure that I add in some text content blocks with examples of an H1 headline, an H2 headline, an H3 headline, and also some body paragraph text. Okay, so now I actually want to create my brand styles page as an index page. And what that just means is an index allows you to stack different pages on top of one another in one long scrolling page. So this brand styles page I've already created, I'm actually going to duplicate it and stack it underneath my existing brand styles page, because this time I want to see what my font settings would be if I included a background image, because Squarespace in this Brine template treats those 2 differently. So if I have an image or a solid color banner behind my page section, it's going to treat those font settings differently. To show you what I mean, I'll actually create a background image. So let's just pretend that this section of my index page, I want it to be my hunter green color. And so I'm going to create a quick shape in the hunter green color. Again, this is just for testing purposes, so I'm not going to worry about what size it is or anything. Now, under this banner setting here, I'm going to upload that green background image as my banner. And you'll see that now that becomes my background of that section on my index page. And voila, you can see all of my text is a different color. It's the white on top of the banner versus the black color. Now, the next section I want to create is for image styles. And if you click Add Section under the index page, you can use some of these pre-made layouts. So if I click Images, it'll give me a different options to lay out my images. So I'll click one of those. And I'm going to upload different images that I already have saved, just again as examples, but I'll show you the different options that you have for these image styles that can create a lot of really cool layouts on your Squarespace site. The default setting for images is this inline display. But if you double click on the image block and you hit design on these 3 tabs, you'll see that you actually have a lot of different options on how to display your images. For my image styles section, I want to at least have one of each so that I can be able to style that. So typically all of these image styles have a headline, a subtitle, and then the option of putting a button. And so you'll see me for all of these different images add those 3 items and then select a different type of image display style just so that I have one of each. And when it comes time to finally edit my Squarespace styles, I can make sure that I style all of them. I should also mention that I opted not to get the photo pack that I talked about in the Graphic Elements Brand Styles video. Instead, I got all of these images free off of Unsplash and then just kind of edited the colors within them to match the brand color story. I think they all look really great together. All right, so now this gives you an idea of what we have so far. We've got our text on without a banner and with a banner and all of our image styles. The final thing that I like to add is a section dedicated to a couple of variations of summary blocks, and usually these are used to display blog posts, and I know for sure that I'm going to use those content blocks in the build of my site, so I want to make sure that I have the ability to style them here on my brand styles page. You have a couple of different layout options to choose from when you insert the block, but you can always change this later. So now you'll see that your blog here will pop up in the content section. So look at my pretty images. That's why we created the 6 example blog posts beforehand. So this first one I'm going to set up as a carousel layout, and then I also decided to insert one as a list layout just for something that looked a little bit visually different. I find that the carousel looks a little bit similar to the grid. So anyway, just for some variation. We are finally almost done with the brand styles page basic building blocks, but the last thing I'm going to do is head up here to the top and insert my brand colors as an image. I just grouped these items together in XD and exported them as a PNG, so you'll see me add those as an image at the top. Eventually, I'll change these into a gallery and include the hex codes and all of that good stuff, but for now I just wanted to see all the colors here since we have a lot of different stuff to play with. There was actually one image style that I realized I hadn't created, and it has to do with these fun shapes that I shared with you guys in the brand styles video. I wanted to test out using one of these for the poster image style. So I brought one of these PNGs into Photoshop and recolored it in my hunter green. Then I just resaved it as a PNG and inserted it into my image styles section of my brand styles page as an image block and made sure to select the poster image style. This was just one idea I had about how to utilize the poster image style and the hand-painted shapes that I knew was already going to be kind of a graphic element for my brand, and so I just wanted to include it on the brand styles page to see what I could do in styling that. All right, now I have all the content blocks that I need here on my brand styles index page. The next step is to head over to the Squarespace site style settings and apply my fonts, my colors, and all of my brand styles to this website. So we are going to head back out to the main menu, and under the Design tab, you will see the Site Styles section. And here is where you will find all of the lovely settings that you can play around with to customize your website and add those brand styles to it. Typically, I just go straight down the list in the order that the site styles are listed. So the first thing I start with is the navigation and the header and how I want that to look, where I want the logo placed, whether in the center or to the left or the right, etc. You'll see me separate out the primary navigation from the secondary navigation and add a band of color behind the secondary navigation. And then you'll also see me increase the logo width quite a bit so that it's a little bit more prominent. And I also make sure to change the navigation font to one of my brand fonts, which is Adele Sans. Moving right along the list here, the next thing I'm going to change is the background color of my site. So the default is white. If I click that little color and I grab my parchment hex code and paste it in the box there, it's going to change the background of my site to that light kind of beigey parchment. In my opinion, that one change immediately makes it more custom and branded to our Galactic Creative Studio brand. The next change that's going to make a huge impact is adding our brand font styles. If you watched the brand styles video, then you know I already picked out 3 potential body fonts, Laura, Futura, as well as Quicksand, and I ended up test driving all 3 of these, and I decided that I liked the look of Futura the best, so that's the one that I decided to go with. Okay, so now I would go to the H1 next, but that is going to be our custom Ryland font, so I'm going to hold off on that for now. Instead, I'm going to do the H2, and as we already established, that's going to be the Adele Sans. You'll also see me messing around with the letter spacing. I think that's one easy way to customize the look of a font, is to either increase or decrease the letter spacing. Okay, rather than introduce a new font into the mix for my H3, I decided to take one of the fonts we already chose, which would be Futura, and instead kind of make it bolder and bigger with a little bit of letter spacing to make sure that it visually stood out from the body font, but again, it was still visually cohesive with the entire font system. Sometimes I'll include a fourth font here for like an accent font, but to me, I just wanted to keep it simple and streamlined. Next up, going down the list, I have my footer settings. Rather than the white, I opted for the Hunter Green brand color. I tend to think that darker colors look better on a footer. It just kind of grounds the whole website and you don't want it to stick out like a sore thumb at the bottom. And then I did the parchment color text on top, as well as my pink color for links, if I wanted to include links to my pages in my footer, which I probably will do down the road. I thought that would, I already know that that is kind of a cool, quirky color combo, the pink on the green, so I thought that was a good place to use that. As I scroll back up, a lot of this is going to be dependent upon that Ryland font, so now feels like a good time to save and go to install my custom font. To do this, you'll first need to go to Design, Custom CSS, and I clicked Open in New Window. Your CSS file will be blank to start off with, but for the custom code, you're going to paste in this line of code. This is going to use the @FontBase to call your font files. So the first thing you'll do is make sure after font family, you put the name of your font, how you want to call it. And then you can see where it says source URL. That's where we are going to paste in between those little single quotes, the location of our font file. But before we can get the location, we need to upload our font file. So to do that, you're going to click on this Add Images or Fonts, and you're going to use the OTF font that was given to you when you downloaded the custom font. That's an open type font. And as long as your cursor is in between those single quote marks, all you have to do is click on the font file that you uploaded, and it will automatically paste in the location of that. And then I just remove the HTTPS so that it starts with the 2 forward slashes there. Also be mindful if you're copying in this line of code here and you get an error, it's probably because something happened when you were pasting the single quotes and it reformatted them. So that's what I had to do here. I had to go back and retype those single quotes so that they weren't formatted. All right, our font is now uploaded, but we have to assign it to a style. So I'm going to type H1 and then I'm going to assign it the font family of Ryland within those single quotes. Semicolon and save. And there you go. Now over here on my brand styles page, you can see my H1 is in the Ryland font. So I can really get the feel for it. I'm going to change my H1 color to my Hunter Green and my H1 color with a banner background to my light pink. Now I know that I also want to use this Ryland font as the font for my image style headlines here, but since I can't do that in the site styles, what I am going to do first is just make sure that all the other settings are solidified for these before I go and do the custom font portion. So you'll see me make all the subtitles in the Futura font and the button styles in the Adele Sans font and play around with the settings there. And once I get all the colors and the fonts where I want them, then I am going to now go about assigning the Ryland font to the headline. This process is a little tricky and I'm not going to get too far into the nitty-gritty here, but what I do is I go to View Developer in my Chrome browser, and that gives me this inspector here, which allows me to highlight an element on my website and then see where in the code it's listed and which classes in the Squarespace template code are being applied and where the font is coming from. So once I do a little bit of detective work and use that tool to uncover where in my CSS code the font is coming from, I simply can use those classes to add to my own custom CSS, assign the Ryland font family, and kind of override those Squarespace site styles. So I can actually add that CSS here in my developer tools, but it's only a preview. It doesn't permanently change my CSS. But it is really handy because once you write the code, you can double check that it works. You can see that it does in fact change the styles as it's displayed on the website. And that's when you can just straight up copy and paste it into your custom CSS section of your design tools on your Squarespace website. That covers it for now on my custom font. So the last step on this brand styles page is to further edit all of the colors and to really utilize those color combinations that I talked about in the last video with the brand styles and go through this style page and update my text styles as well as my image styles with those fun color combinations. So that's what you are seeing me do right now. I decided that I wanted that Ryland font to be my headline font of my summary blocks, and this is again something that you can't really transform in the site styles, so I'm going to do my handy dandy little developer tools trick here and add this as my custom CSS as well. I should mention this is just my particular process. As I do all of these site styles, if I'm adding custom CSS, I'm not particularly worried about how messy the code is at this point. At the very end, I separate each thing by page. I make comments to make sure it's very obvious what code pertains to what element on the website. But for now, it slows me down, so I just kind of copy and paste as I please. All right, working on those summary blocks made me remember that there's one area of site styles that I need to address, and that is the blog list styles. So whenever you create blog posts, there is a blog page that's automatically generated at whatever the URL is that you designate in your blog settings on this page, and when it's created and you go to that page, you will see a new section that pops up in your site styles that you wouldn't see otherwise. So that is under, in the Brine template, it's under the section listed blog list. So you can see still some of that default font is on there. It also specifies what metadata you want and what position you want that. So I took some time now, again, before I get into the layout on my website, to solidify those styles. I also took the time to assign my Ryland font to those blog list headlines as well. I'm not going to use this as my blog landing page. I'm going to create my own custom page, but just in case any of the site styles are inherited from this, or just in case somebody magically finds themselves there, I want to make sure this is nice and pretty and branded with my Ryland font. All right, we are all set. We've created our brand style page with all of the elements that we wanted to style. We added our brand colors and fonts, and we assigned a bunch of styles to our image styles. We installed a custom font. And now that we have all of these styled building blocks, you're going to see that in the next video, when we go to create the layouts for all of our pages, the elements that we use in order to do that are already going to be styled. And you're just going to be amazed at how the simple process of adding content blocks and creating layouts is actually going to start to inform the site design, and you're going to see it come to life right before your very eyes.